Hey everybody, welcome to Making Sense of It All. I'm your host, Jesse Stakes, and as part of our Professional at Anything But Golf series that we're doing, I have Dr. Greg Goldberger. He is the owner and the head of Movement Driven. Greg, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Jesse. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And so, I'm one of those people, I always say, I don't know what I don't know. And so as part of this interview and part of this whole series, I'm having Wes Altice. He's the head of instruction over at Topgolf. He's joining me to kind of, fill in the gaps and make sure that I'm asking the questions that should be asked. So, Wes, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks again for having me, Jesse. This is going to be another great conversation for all the golfers out there.
So, Dr. Greg, tell us about Movement Driven. Tell me what you guys do.
Yeah, so Movement Driven is at its heart, it's a physical therapy company. So we consider ourselves to be performance physical therapists. So my story is I come from South Florida, and I was working with athletes. I had a really good job working with some NFL guys, some MLB guys, and my wife and I decided to move up to the Jacksonville, St. Augustine area. And we were like, I told her, I was like, there's no way I'm going to find a better spot than this position. I'm not going to go up and just work for Joe Schmo Physical Therapy. So I want to do it my way. I want to do it the right way. And she was on board. She's been a huge supporter. So we opened Movement Driven Performance Physiotherapy here in Jacksonville and St. John's, I guess almost 2.5 years ago. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So what we specialize in is we work with active individuals in the community, golfers, runners, pickleballers, youth athletes as well. Anybody who has a reason to be active, a reason to be healthy, and is doing everything that they can to do that in their own way. We like to help them and utilize our expertise. So a little bit different than the traditional model of physical therapy where you go in for 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 3 times a week for 6 weeks. I don't think that gets us anywhere. So what we try to do is customize something for your schedule, your budget, whether you want to see us super frequently because you got a lot of pain and you need some manual therapy and dry needling and what have you, or you're just looking for a little tune-up, you need a little bit of advice here and there, you need somebody to talk to and fill in the bits and pieces and build out a program over time. That's what we do as well. So we work with, like I said, all types of active individuals, but specifically myself, I've taken care of a lot of golfers, especially been up here in the Jacksonville, Northeast Florida area. There's lots of average Joe golfers that need my help. So that's what we love to do here. So yeah, that's a little bit about us.
That's awesome. And I feel like we're going to dive into everything, all facets of your business here. But before we even go there, what is it that inspired you? How did you even decide that this is the direction that you wanted to take your career?
Well, I grew up as an athlete, primarily a baseball player, going to the golf course a little bit, but the two swings definitely didn't like each other, and so I stuck to baseball growing up because they clashed as much as
all the time.
I think we can talk about that. That's a whole nother episode maybe. So I grew up an athlete, and I actually grew up wanting to be an architect, and then I did drafting in high school. I was like, nope, that's not for me. And I spent some time at a physical therapy place, a place that eventually became my employer. And he was the Marlins physical therapist down South Florida, the Miami Marlins. Cool. And so he had all types of athletes coming through his door. And so I would go to his place in the summer and just train as a baseball player. And I was like, wait, you're a physical therapist doing this with these types of level athletes? I'm like, this is a dream job. And so I took anatomy, and then like the next year I was like, this is my thing. I never looked back. And so fast forward after schooling and working in the traditional physical therapy sector, I realized it wasn't a way to get people better. You talk about tissue healing times. If you have a sprained ankle or a pulled hamstring, there's a certain timeline where your body needs that time to get better. And the fact that if the doctor prescribes physical therapy, it's a 4 to 6 week timeline. It takes 4 to 6 weeks to start to get stronger. So what I felt like was there needed to be a different model of therapy that people had access to. And so what we do is try to look for the root cause. We're not just trying to put a Band-Aid on a boo-boo and, fix you and make you feel good. We can do that in a few sessions, but to really make changes, it takes time, it takes consistency. And so that's why we space out visits from a budgeting standpoint and a realistic standpoint for people's timeline too. Like, people are busy dads and moms, and they're working. Nobody has time to give me 2 to 3 hours, because I sure as hell don't have time to give that to anybody else. So I get it. So we build out something, and then you have access to it. So I wanted to build my business in a way to help out the person from a realism standpoint and actually make a change, rather than being referred from doctor to therapist to chiropractor to massage therapist, and like everybody's doing their thing. but nobody's given an answer as to like, why are you having back pain? It's because your hips aren't moving. And when you go into the golf swing and your hips aren't moving and your T-spine's not moving and the low back is rotating, when it's not really designed to rotate, so we can go into that in detail, you're going to have low back pain. It's going to happen. So my job is to like minimize that. I never promise to take away people's pain. I promise to get you feeling as good as you can and do the things that you love. So at the heart of it, like I really love what I do. I get passionate about it. And if I can make people enjoy what they love to do just 10% more with 50% less pain, then like we're killing the game. So that's what I love to do.
Nice. I'll tell you, I had a very similar journey to you, not necessarily into physical therapy, but from baseball to golf. As far as I grew up playing baseball, didn't really have much exposure to the game of golf at all. And then it was after an injury, ironically, really, that I was like, okay, can't play baseball anymore. Stick in a ball, golf makes sense. Why don't I try this? It's got to be simple, right? It's not moving. And so one of the biggest things that was a kind of an eye opener for me, making that transition, or when I first even, had that kind of entry into the game, was that with baseball, there is a whole lot of brute force. There's a whole lot of just, very quick power. You're using the momentum of a moving ball towards you to create power. And to your point, it's a very different activity. It's a very different swing. There's a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of positions that you necessarily have to get in a golf swing compared to baseball or compared to some other sports. And it was one of those eye openers for me because I realized, hey, you don't do this motion very well. Like this, there's certain things that maybe, like whether it's injuries, as we had talked about when I first met you, whether it's knee injuries or hip mobility or anything, it really can impact the way that you play the game or the way, compensating motions, whatever it is. But it actually can make the game a little bit more challenging when it comes to trying to, I guess, get into it from the beginning or get into it as a beginner. So long-winded way to kind of go into a question of, you said that you kind of started around baseball yourself, then you went into training with the trainer from the Miami Marlins. What was it that actually got you to say, hey, you know what? I think I want to focus on golf. I think golf is something that I have a passion for, or something that I want to kind of move my business towards.
Yeah, well, honestly, I'll be honest, it was a lot of the need that I felt like I saw here. And even since I've started the TPI stuff myself, I've seen other practitioners, both chiropractors and physical therapists. A lot are up and coming in this area, which I love to see. And the competition is great. So like, let's help everybody. But it really was, so I'll be honest, I came up here and feeling like, my primary is baseball. I don't know the golf swing like a Wes or like a Coach Mo or any of the golf instructors, obviously. I don't want to be dishonest. I don't want to come off as like a fraud and be like, oh, I'm the golf expert, because I don't intend to know the golf swing as much as a golf instructor at all. What I do know is how to move the body in a way that the golf instructor and I team up and find a way to communicate to do what's best for our shared client, right? So it came from a necessity in the area, and it's something that I felt like I wanted to do as well, because I do love to golf as well. And so TPI, and we can kind of shift to that a little bit. TPI is just a nice structure to give us a foundation of an assessment and a way to progress. But
so before we even get into it, I don't mean to cut you off. No, let's talk about TPI. But what does TPI stand for? Because some of the audience is going to understand what you're talking about. Somebody else is going to hear 3 letters. So let's kind of start bare basics. What does TPI stand for?
Yeah, so TPI is Titleist Performance Institute. So Titleist got together a bunch of golf instructors, chiropractors, and physical therapists, and other fitness professionals, personal trainers, and they came up with 16 different movement patterns that they felt if you could master those 16 different movement patterns, a lot of them are mobility assessments, but require some strength and coordination and things like that as well. If you could master those things, then you have as well as we can predict, a really good foundation in terms of a golf fitness handicap to be able to do all the different things your body requires of you on the golf course, in terms of the right amount of rotation in your hip, or the ability to dissociate the movement of your spine from your pelvis, because Wes can speak to this. The golf swing is very much about sequencing. And that's a lot of things. If we can't separate, and this was one that you had a lot of trouble with, Jesse, was separating the pelvis from the spine. So basically, TPI is this kind of organizational chart. We go through this system of can you move these 16 specific ways? And then it gives us a nice output of like, this is what's wrong with you, so to speak, and how can we improve on it? And then I use my own knowledge and my own expertise from the physical therapy world to further dive into, okay, well, this TPI showed you have poor hip mobility in your screen, right? But what's the reason for that? So now I have to look into, is it a passive range of, you're lacking joint mobility, or is it a strength limitation where your mobility is fine, but once you get standing on 2 feet and you have to actively rotate through a swing, you don't have the control or the stability or the strength to move around the hip joint. And so my job is to lineate those and then build out a program to address all of those issues.
Excellent. Wes, do you have anything to add there? You got any questions there?
No, yeah, I just wanted to kind of, with the TPI model, I've been through the whole thing myself. I can't tell you how many of the golf coach ones I went through. And it's just kind of also to put out there that TPI is not saying if you don't pass all these things, you can't play good golf. It gives the fitness instructor, that ability to be like, all right, we can see potentially a problem coming up in an injury per se. But yeah, you could look up and down PGA Tour and a lot of those guys would fail it. But however, they're in the gym all the time. So it is a great thing to help with the injury prevention. And if we're kind of stuck in a certain area of can't get a movement to go, that's where it's nice to be like, okay, well, he's lacking internal rotation of the lead hip. That's why he stays on his back foot, or they just don't know how to do it yet. And, their brain's not allowing them to get onto that left side because there might be some kind of impingement. But yeah, it's very good. And I do like making sure my golfers don't get hurt while they're playing golf.
One of my favorite books, and it's a business book, but it's called Who Not How. And it's a book. If you guys haven't seen it or heard of it, or if my audience hasn't, I was actually turned on to it by a investment professional of mine, a real estate investment professional. Thank you very much, Ian Brown. But it's essentially, this whole book is talking about how, if you're trying to figure out how to do everything, you're spending your time in the wrong places. If you have experts, if you have who's that are very good or they're experts at what they do, that you're much better off hiring or partnering with a who rather than trying to figure out how to do it yourself. And so like when I hear the two of you speak, or when I hear, Coach Mo speak with Greg, because I know they do a tremendous amount of partnership together, it's all about making sure that you have who's that are really good at what they do, that are taking their piece and moving it forward. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I hear in this is just making sure that, you don't have to know everything. One person doesn't need to be an expert in anything, but you do have to know who is an expert in their field. And so, Greg, I think that's huge. Along the lines of, as far as for my audience, for that professional that's 30, 40, 50 years old, whether they're new to the game or if they've been in the game, like, do you consider TPI to be something that's strictly for professionals? Or do you think that this is something that would be incredibly valuable for anybody within that age bracket, anybody at any skill level to incorporate into what they do?
Oh, yeah, absolutely the latter. It's good for anybody on any level. You could argue that, Wes pointed out that there's many professionals that wouldn't necessarily pass, but I would also argue there's many that would, you know what I mean? Or at least do fairly well on it because they're in the gym and they have all of these professionals, right? So there's a reason why these 16 movements were picked, because we need a certain amount of thoracic rotation, we need a certain amount of hip rotation, we need a certain amount of hamstring flexibility and glute activation. And when you don't have those things, we can improve on those. And so for the average Joe, somebody who's working out just to lose a little bit of weight or stay healthy or be a dad, what this provides is that guidance. Like, this is the way to do it. This is the order of operations. We have to build a foundation of mobility before we can add the strength component. And our job is to basically hold your hand through the process. And like I said, you can see us as often as you need to. We give our recommendations, but people live busy lives and people have different budgets. So if you want to come see us and really get that ball rolling, especially if you have some pain, we like to jumpstart things and do it once a week for a few weeks. And then get it to where now you have a maintenance program. And we can build out that program as detailed as it is. If it's just rehab type things, or it's like, hey, build me out an entire exercise program to work on power and speed and everything that is needed, as well as I want to be healthy just to be a dad or just to be able to go play as a golfer, as part of my profession and network and things like that. So like all of those things fit in there. So the TPI fits with all of those types of people for sure.
No doubt. Well, I think honestly, you can take something as simple as tying your shoes. If I don't have flexibility in my lower half, in my lower back, in my hamstrings, and if I bend down to tie my shoes, and if I'm inflexible, I'm going to hold my breath. I'm going to tighten up. It's going to be like there's going to be a stress level, even with something as simple as tying your shoes. But if you have flexibility, you breathe fine, your heart rate doesn't accelerate. There's nothing that happens differently than just living your life on a regular basis if you are flexible enough to do that simple motion.
Yeah.
I use that because anybody can relate to tying their shoes, unless someone has a closet full of slip-ons, which I don't know anybody who has that. But in that case, I apologize for using that anecdote, but most people can relate to tying your shoes.
For sure. And I think that's a really simple way to put it, where like most of the people that come through our doors in the physical therapy world, like most injuries are repetitive in nature,
Yeah.
especially for a golfer. It's not like I have a bunch of, I stepped off a curb and sprained my knee. Like that doesn't come into my door that often.
No.
I don't know what happened. I was doing squats, I was fine, and like 2 hours later, my knee started hurting and it's a little swollen. I don't know. Well, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And so to your point, like there's a domino effect that happens there, right? If you're not moving well here, then the body's going to compensate in some way. And we see the same thing in the golf swing. And I think Wes can speak to this, but things like when you start to early extend, it's going to lead to hanging back. It's going to lead to casting more. Like once one thing goes really haywire, you're going to have to compensate to get the head to the ball as cleanly as you can. And then those things in turn can also cause injuries if we're casting too much. I see lots of people with wrist issues and the golfers and tennis elbow stuff. Like there's lots of those repetitive things where that could be your casting because your hip's not moving well. And I don't like to jump there and like I'm gonna fix your hip for your wrist issue. I think that's crazy too. But there is argument for it in certain cases for sure. And so like to bring it back to your point, like it's a domino effect for sure. And so all I try to do, whether you're a golfer or not, is like, where's that domino to keep falling over? Let's stand it back up and then let's go from there.
Yeah, that's a great point. Just, I mean, anything in the golf swing, it all leads back to some type of root cause. You're hanging back. Well, why? Why are you hanging back? Or like I said, why are you casting? So there's always something in that chain that's faulty. And, if people want to go down the route, I always encourage them, get the body going because you'll play golf way, way longer. And then even within, TPIs, you can make compensations in the golf swing temporarily to make sure you can move and give yourself a little bit more mobility. I mean, just simply flaring out the feet a little bit can help with some of that rotation within the hip. So that's always, an option. We do have options until you get better with your body, like you said. But in the meantime, hey, you kind of want to play good golf right now. And for those changes, just like a mechanical change, body change is going to take a while. It's not, oh, cool, I'm going to go see Greg and I'm going to be fixed after I see him. It's like, no, dude, you got to work at it.
So that's a great point. I do want to touch on that. But to your point, too, with the toes flaring out to get a little bit more hip rotation, if you came to me and you had a lack of hip mobility, I'm not going to retrain 40 years of lost mobility. Like I'm not a miracle worker, unfortunately. My job is to get you a few extra degrees. And you can still flare out because that's probably still what you need because you didn't get the full 60 of internal rotation that you need. But now you have more wiggle room. If you have a weird lie, there's more options. And so what I tell my patients all the time is I'm giving you variability of movement. You've been moving the same way. I just want to give you options so you're not harping on the same tissues, creating injury, because that's my first focus. And then also it's going to be better for your golf game because now you have different ways that you're good at multiple ways of getting the club head there rather than this is my only option because I can't move at all in that front.
Yeah.
Hip, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially you see that more with, middle age, guys been sitting in the office, for the past 20 years, like, oh, I'm going to take golf up again because I have time. It's like, yeah, okay, we got some work to do. And I think
just give him my card on the first visit, Wes.
Here, dude, like get moving. No, it's just like during kind of my lessons too, I'm always like, all right, I need to know you have two sources of pain. One, the pain of the shots you're hitting on the golf course because you don't like them. And are you having any physical pain when you're swinging the club, even after you're done? Like, is there a specific area that's hurting? That kind of cues me in without having to run through a huge, you know, assessment, physically. I can be like, all right, I can start running through my checklist of things like, all right, maybe I need to open them up. Maybe I need to close them up. That way we can take that pain away when they play golf and then get their body working the right way as soon as possible. That's where a fitness professional like yourself comes in.
One of the biggest things, the overarching themes when I'm thinking about the audience that we're talking to here, and what I'm hearing is that, when you're looking to start saying, I want to improve at this, I want to get better at it. One of the biggest things that you're going to offer them, Greg, and it's not just for them, it's for the professional that they're working with, is that you're offering them a blueprint to get better. You're saying, here's where you have deficiencies or where you excel in motion in your body currently. And it tells them, potentially what they can work on. But it also tells their instructor, here's what I'm working with. Here's the raw materials that I'm working with to help this person get better. Mm-hmm. I know that you and Mo talk about that a lot as far as the partnership that you guys have generated. That's kind of what you guys told me, was that you're essentially, you're creating like input for her or input for whoever the coach is that you're dealing with to say, this is where you got right now. Doesn't mean that's what you'll have 6 months from now or 12 months from now if that person decides to do something. But if they don't decide to do anything, if they are a 42-year-old professional like myself, and I don't have the time to put into it, then potentially this is what you got. This is what you have to work with. Work from here. Yes?
No.
Fair enough.
I think... So here's how I look at, like, take your hip mobility issue.
Sure.
Right? Your hip mobility, 42.
As long as we don't put videos up, I'm fine. No.
My phone's away. But so we know that you have poor hip mobility, specifically internal rotation. Right?
Yes.
And it's lacking pretty considerable. Would you agree? Like,
absolutely.
We need to work on that. Whether you're a golfer or you came to see me as I'm just lifting in the gym for my health, if you had that little of hip mobility, I would say we need to increase that hip mobility to prevent hip arthritis 20 years from now, to prevent knee issues you already have some of those, right? To prevent knee issues from getting worse 20 years from now. So my job, like I said, I'm a physical therapist first. So yes. My job is to prevent injury for you and give you the best ability to move long term. And I leave the golf stuff to the golf professional. So when you come to see me, I first have to make sure, are you functional to do XYZ? And then are you functional to do XYZ in the golf swing?
Fair.
So if you were to continue on your path and not do a single thing to address specifically that hip mobility, it's a matter of when, not if. You know what I mean? It's only a matter of time before I'm not golfing at all anymore because it hurts too much. And my job...
I think that's a great point.
Yeah, and as much as it sounds cool to be better on the golf course, my first job is to keep you on the golf course. Mm-hmm. I just want you to do what you love to do. And I'm, like I said, I don't make promises. I'm not going to say you're going to shoot your age at any... Like, I'm just trying to get you to keep doing what you love, whatever that is. So when somebody comes in, like, I want to be able to play golf until I'm 75 years old. I want to play 3 times a week, and I want to walk it once a week if I want to. Hell yeah. What are we going to do? Like you said, let's lay out the blueprint. Let me teach you how to build the house. Let me give you the tools, but you have to build the house.
Fair. I love that.
You have to put the work in. Like anything.
Right.
You want to build your business? You want to be a better father? You want to be a better professional? Put the freaking work in, dude. Yeah. So it's just a matter of what you want and expectations. We kind of spoke about this when we met before. It's a matter of expectations. This is what I tell people all the time. Like, we bring a sports analogy into it, like the Milwaukee Bucks losing in the first round versus the Hawks getting there and losing in the first round. They both lost, but it's drastically different outcomes. One had expectations to win a championship. One was happy to be there and just wanted to fight, right? So one's a success and one's a failure, but they had the same result. So when you go into it, if you want to beat all your buddies and win a little bit of money on Saturday when you go out with them, what are you going to do to get that money? Like, just like anything. So, like, okay, I'll stop my Motivational Monday speech, but it's really
I love it.
I mean, it's true, right? And
it is.
Myself, this self-talk all the time. I don't want to wake up and work out in the morning, but I look at those kids' faces and I know what I got to do to demonstrate at least 2 reps really good for Jesse when he comes in next time. I got to do my part to do what I need to do for whatever that is that I set my goals as, right? So if you want to be a golfer and you want to get better, or you just want to golf long term, what are you going to do to make those things happen?
Totally
Yeah.
fair.
I think
So
I think people a lot, sorry, Jesse, with golf, they expect because the ball's not moving and all this stuff that they can just like take one lesson or come into one training session and they're gonna get better right away. It's like, no, dude, like I said, you have to put in the work if you want to get better. But being armed with the tools to do that, then the onus is back on the player and it's not so much on us to, make sure they're doing it. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it. That's plain and simple.
And then, and to that point too, people compare themselves to the professionals all the time. No matter
Oh
what
yeah.
sport they're in, people compare themselves to the professionals. We have to also take a step back as ourselves and be like, okay, these guys get paid lots of money to do what they love to do. They have a nutritionist, a chef, a chiro, a therapist, a trainer, a massage therapist. Half of them travel with them. Like
Yep.
these guys have it made in the shade. And for us to say, why can't I? Because you got 3 kids running around and you got a full-time job and you're trying to build a bill, and yeah, you just want to go out on the golf course and have some fun once a week.
Yep. Very true.
That's
Very,
your
very
fake
true.
believer. What are the things we have to do to keep that as part of your life?
Yeah.
And
that's what
100%.
inspired this whole that's what inspired this whole thing. That's why we're doing this series, is really because when you go on YouTube or you go on any of these, like you look at, these people who review golf clubs, they do anything, they really are, I mean, you look at they're 110, 115 mile an hour swing speed. They're scratch golfers or they're plus handicap sitting there saying, here, like they're doing it for entertainment purposes. They've created a business out of it. But when you, as a, like you said, as a busy professional, as a busy father, as a busy mother, whoever you are, then you go out and you're in that there's a disconnect between what you see or what kind of what you've expected to happen when you strike a golf ball versus what you actually do. Then it's that disconnect. And so really it's like, that's one of the big purposes of doing all of this, is to kind of what proper expectations should be, what's possible for that individual, and so that they can go out there and enjoy the type of golf that they can play or the golf game that they do have, and really right size their expectations, and also approach the game in a way that allows them to do whatever they're looking to do with it, whether they're looking to just have fun or maximize their potential, whatever it is. That's what inspired me to even take this up and kind of have these conversations. So I think it's spot on. That all being said, I'd love to ask, do you have any specific success stories or anything that you would, you don't have to name names, but just people love stories. People love to hear kind of, things that have happened to where it's a, where people have kind of pulled themselves up or have had success doing this.
Yeah. I mean, we work with lots of juniors. Coach Mo is awesome and sends me a lot of our juniors. We have a junior, performance program, but I do see the better results, to be honest, with the average guy. So like the one that comes to mind when we're talking about this, I won't say names because of HIPAA and stuff, but he's a dad in St. John's. He's got 2 kids that are middle school and high school. He's a busy professional. He loves to golf, and he golfs on the golf course from a business standpoint as well.
Right.
He came to me with left knee pain. And he's like, but I'm a golfer too. And, here are my goals. And he listed them out for me, just like we talked about. And so I did the TPI, I did my physical therapy assessment, and his hips weren't moving at all. And that was the source of his knee pain. And, if we had just done a regular physical therapy evaluation and just done quad and hamstring and exercises, like you can fix the knee rather easily. Like any Joe Schmo physical therapist can fix your knee pain in 3 to 4 visits. It's a matter of if it's going to come back 3 months from now. And so if all I did was get that knee better, the next time he went on the golf course, because his hip wasn't rotated, he would have put more torsion through that front side. That front hip's not rotating. So he's just like Tiger's famous for this. This is what happened to Tiger's knee. When his low back wasn't rotating, so he wasn't getting through, and then his front knee just got torn up. And so all we've done with him is we did hip mobility for a few visits, and he was good as new. Now he sees me monthly as a just a maintenance thing, and we just work on anything he needs to. But that's just like, I have so many of those, right?
Sure.
There's nothing that comes to mind in terms of super special, but it's like, he has knee pain. I can't golf. I can't play around in the backyard with my kids. My knee hurts. The doctor says I need this. I don't agree. What can you do for me? Let's get your hip moving.
Nice.
That was it. And so it can be as simple as that. And that goes back to the point at the beginning. Like these plans can be super customized for each individual. Like, is it better to see me weekly and give me more money for me? For sure.
Of course.
Yeah, it is. It is better for you. But if that's not what works for you, that's totally fine. Tell me what works for you. Tell me your budget. Tell me your timeline. Here's what to do. And if you're willing to put in the work, there's no reason why we can't improve. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So if somebody's looking to get started, if they're, if they're like, okay, this sounds like something that I want to do, where do they start? How do they, what's the best way? What's the best first step?
Yeah, so for me individually, you can just go to our website at movementdriven.com and fill out a form, and you can schedule a discovery call. So we do free 15-minute phone calls so we can talk about, make sure we're the right fit for you and talk about what you got going on and kind of get all that nitty-gritty out of the way. And then we'll set up an evaluation. And when you come in, we start with that TPI. We go into looking more closely at whatever injuries you might have or old injuries that, you might not even realize what immobility issues you still have lingering from that shoulder issue you had it back in college or whatever it is. So we just do a full assessment. And then from that day, we start treatment. So we start manual therapy and we start building out that program for you. And you leave with videos in your email of specifically what you need to do, how often you need to do it, and then when you need to see me again. If you're not specifically in my area or you're looking to work with anybody else anyway, TPI also has, I think a lot of people choose to be listed on the TPI website. So you can go to the TPI and see who's registered as a medical professional, a power fitness professional, a golf instructor, junior specialist, and you can see who's in your area and then get started that way for people who aren't local. But if you're interested in working with me, we do virtual as well. It doesn't, it's not as good as the in-person stuff. We can't do the manual therapy, but if you're interested in see how I can help you, we do virtual. So like I said, just go to movementdriven.com, find us there, and all our socials are there and that kind of stuff.
Excellent. I can speak for myself just from having an experience with you that you're easy to put your trust in as far as from a physical standpoint. You know what you're doing. It is eye-opening as far as the results and the data that you do get back. And then, like you said, it's just what do you do with it yourself? So if somebody's looking to improve their physical well-being, if they're looking to improve their physical health, which will also help them on the golf course, I would encourage you to talk to Dr. Greg, take a look at their website, take a look at what they have to offer. It's tremendously beneficial for your health. And as you said, if you're looking to stay active through your life, then it's when you have issues, it's easy to fix them when they first become a problem you don't want them to become chronic. You don't want them to become something that is debilitating to where you're now having to dig out of a hole rather than just fix a small issue. So Greg, I think I think what you have to offer is tremendous. I want to thank you for joining the program.
Thank you.
I would love to have you back as we continue to go through this series. As I'm sure it's just like anything else. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what questions are going to pop up. And as I'm going through my own journey doing this and kind of the experiences that we have, I'd love to share them with the audience and have you come on and do it with me.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to break down more topics individually, specific types of issues that your listeners may have. We can talk about those. And I appreciate you for having me and let me talk about my business a little bit. Very much appreciated. And for your listeners, anybody who wants to cash in on a nice deal, I'm going to offer 50% off for the initial eval. So anybody who wants to come see us, just mention Jesse Stakes when you reach out. And we'll hook you up on that first visit, at least get you the TPI and get you set on a nice little 4-week program for a nice discount. So want to help people in general. So anybody that needs help, please reach out. Free discovery calls. If you just want to ask me my opinion, happy to do so.
Excellent. Wes, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Greg, great meeting you, man. And I think anyone that is starting to get back into golf, at least figure out what's moving, what needs to be worked on so you can play golf for as long as you can, because you can keep the body up. You can play golf for years and years and years. So this is really awesome stuff.
That's a great point to finish it off with. Like, it is the sport that everybody thinks of as you can play and have that longevity. But I think we're naive if we don't look at our grandparents' generation. They were much more active than we are. And I think that can't be said too lightly. So if anybody's looking to jumpstart their routine and they've been afraid to get back into it because they know they have knee pain and they can't squat. So how do you get, like, that's what we do. So please reach out. Jesse, let me know when you want your next appointment. We'll hook you up again for sure. And then Wes, if you ever need anything, let me know, man. It was great meeting you.
Yep. We'll definitely be reaching out and
For
So
sure.
that way you can tear down my messed up body right now.
Yeah, and I'll come. You have to tear down my golf swing. I'll come by Top Golf. We're right up the street from me. We got a location like a mile up the road on St. John's Bluff. So
Oh, perfect.
yeah, I'll have to come by and see you one day.